Kiki McCartney, welcome to the Preconstruction Podcast.
Hi there.
Thanks for coming on. I know we bumped into each other in Denver at Advancing Preconstruction. We had a good chat. I met a lot of people there, but I believe that you were a great candidate to come on and talk about the next generation of the pre-construction and estimating talent we have.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for saying that. I'm super excited. Love listening to your podcast, and yeah, feel honored to be here.
Good. Let's get into it straight away. So, if anybody hasn't picked up, obviously I've got an accent, but Kiki's got a little accent of her own. So, let's start digging into that a little bit. A little bit about your background. Where are you from, and how did you end up in the US?
Yeah. So I'm born and raised in Germany. Grew up there my entire life. Did an apprenticeship at 16 in hotel management. That takes about 3 years. And then once I was done with that, I continued working in that industry for a few years. Moved to Austria, worked there, and ended up in New Zealand, where I worked for a year. Beautiful city, if you or country if you haven't been, and that ended up bringing me to the U.S. Good old Montana, beautiful state, very quiet, very small, and from Montana ended up in Denver because the job market just wasn't there, and started working for Stryker. They do medical devices, and construction kind of fell into my lap. I was the office and facility manager. The division was expanding quickly, and they were looking for someone to do an office expansion. They were like, "Hey, you look like someone that can do this." So I was like, "Okay, sure." And that was my first touch point with construction. All of a sudden, I was managing different vendors, and we had to take walls down. We needed permits, and really fell in love with the process so much so that I decided to get my degree in it from LSU in construction management, and here we are.
Brilliant. The rest is history. So I have been shouting about this, Kiki, for months and months. It's really important that construction, and probably just as important as pre-construction, get people from other industries. So you are a brilliant product of that, and we're delighted to have you. Not only did you decide, obviously, to get into construction, you decided to do it. I don't want to say do it properly, but you decided to go and get your degree. How much of a decision was that? You must have been fairly certain.
Oh yeah, I mean, it definitely was a really big decision because I already had a career. I had been working for various years, so deciding to take a somewhat step back to get a degree, was tough and was something that I definitely had to consider a lot. But I wanted to do it right, and I wanted to have knowledge. And to bring that to the table, I felt like a degree was really going to set me up for success. I did some research, which universities have been doing a lot of construction degrees, and LSU really stood out to me. And that was before the pandemic. They already had an online degree. Louisiana is super cute, just didn't want to live there. So I was super grateful that I could continue living in Denver and then getting my degree there, and also working on networking at the same time.
Brilliant, brilliant. And we're going to get into networking later on, which I'm super excited about because I think there's not enough emphasis put on networking within pre-construction. So tell me about the degree online, living in Denver. Tell me, I always like to kind of dive into each university, each program, how much was covered and what was covered, because obviously a big gripe of mine is there's not enough pre-construction and estimating covered. How much of your degree touched on pre-construction and estimating?
Um, you make a good point. I would say there wasn't too much. It definitely was my capstone project. There was an entire, we basically had to do a full bid. It was a group activity of, I think, 5 people, and we had to, build out an entire bid. So that was a lot of emphasis on pre-construction. I had like one full course of full-on estimating. Earthwork there was a heavy focus on that, but it was business law, a lot of materials that were discussed, methods and materials where there were, I think, at least 4 full-on classes. So still not too much focus on pre-construction, I would say. But what I saw, I was intrigued by. We definitely did some bid leveling, which was interesting. looking at it now that I'm in this, because I was like, oh, who would submit a bid that's not fully filled out, or that doesn't have taxes, or you don't have contact details on there. And at that point, I was like, oh, that seems silly. But then now, yeah, there are different kind of estimates that you review and that you receive.
Well, that sounds more than most people I talk to be honest with you. The program, I mean, even doing a full bid yourself, even part of a group, I mean, that's good. That's a step forward compared to the usual small, maybe 3% of the degree module that's just a box ticking exercise for the university or for the lecturer, the professor. So that's good. So was it then during the degree that you turned around and went, ooh, my skills might lie within this pre-construction estimating?
No. I was applying for internships. I really wanted to get an internship before I was done with my degree. And at that point, I was super set on I wanted to do something in the office. And I hadn't really heard about the pre-construction engineer or even the estimating department. So the only two jobs that I was aware of was a project engineer or field engineer. I ended up doing an internship as a field engineer, which was super valuable. I absolutely loved it. Getting like hands-on experience, working with subs in the field, and just getting a feel for that dynamic was amazing. I had a super cool team, two really cool super field attendants that I'm still close with. One of them, I think we call each other once a month, just to check in. And I mean, it's been a year now. So I was kind of thinking about becoming a field engineer. And then when I was done with the degree, I started looking for jobs, and my current role just kind of, again, fell into my lap. I applied for the role. I had to do a practical exam for the position. And that was basically like putting together an entire bid again by myself. And I was like, actually, this is so fun doing it by myself and like having all the autonomy to make all these decisions. This is where I was like, I think I don't want to be a field engineer. I want to be in the estimating field or pre-construction.
You know what? Yeah, you know what's standing out for me, Kiki? You're someone that backs yourself, but also isn't afraid to take a step back, to take a step forward. Obviously, my day job is recruiting and working with the best pre-construction estimating talent in the US. And the amount of people that would turn their nose up to building a bid during an interview process, it's quite high. So even had you have done that bid and not got the job, you would have learned something from it. So I mean, kudos to you for doing that. So you did the bid, you got the job, you nailed it. Talk to me now, right? Because I know this is something that's kind of close to your heart. Talk to me about how you maximize your first 6 months in an entry level construction position.
Yeah. I would say throw yourself into it. Try to get as much exposure as you can. Really ask questions. I know that's like cliche, but there are no dumb questions. Because if you ask questions, you can understand the bigger concept, you can understand how things are connected, and then you can make educated decisions. So really throwing yourself into it, I think, is super important. Also, yeah, ask if you can be part of that meeting. Ask if someone can explain something to you. Meet with people that you normally don't meet. In the beginning, set up time with everyone on the team, understand their job, because you don't know, at some point you might have a question and you can reach out to them because you know who you can go to. So really maximize your team's knowledge.
Yeah.
That will help you.
Yeah, because I agree with you, Kiki. I mean, a lot of interns, graduate, entry level positions, they go into a company and they're kind of left to their own devices. There's no program, there's no structure. They may or may not be assigned a mentor, someone that they can go and ask questions for. So you're almost out on an island by yourself. You've got to go and create relationships with people, because there's probably these bigger companies, there's 5 or 6 interns asking them the same question, but until you find the common ground with someone, and generally you're able to kind of figure out who the person that knows the most or is the most experienced, that you can ask that question and get the answer right away. It's a skill in itself.
Yeah, I think what you said, like making or creating connections and relationships, I think that's the biggest thing. Finding people that you're comfortable with asking questions, that you can go to for anything, and then just leveraging them.
So for someone that just graduated in August 2023, you're fairly early in, but you've already got a promotion. I mean, what do you put down that success? Was it that open-mindedness, asking questions, or was there anything else that maybe our viewers could and our listeners could take away?
I think if there is an opportunity to take on more responsibilities, take it. Don't shy away from it. My part of my team went on paternity leave. The babies were due at the same time, so there was nothing that could be done about that. So they obviously took some time off. So I had to step up, but obviously it was also up to me if I was gonna put my full effort into it and actually more like give 150%. And that's what I did. I was like, this is a really great opportunity for me to show that I can take on more responsibility, that I can lead the team, be successful, and also in combination with that, learning when I have to ask for help and say like, hey, I'm giving everything I can. If this needs to be done right now, I'm gonna have to deprioritize this and this. Want to communicate that? Does that work? And if not, who's available to help me if everything needs to be done right now?
Yeah. Where does that confidence come from, Kiki? Or is that a mindset thing that maybe you got from your parents, from your family? I mean, because most people, if they were, and I would imagine you were the most junior person within that team, that your two seniors go off for a lengthy 3, 6, 12 months time and you're handed the reins. I mean, some people would kind of shy away from that.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination of mindset, but also work experience because this is not my first job. So while it's a new job in construction, I feel like it definitely learned a lot from my previous roles. And I would say working in the hotel industry, I had so much face time with customers. And people sometimes were mean, and you had to just smile and like work through it. I think that really helped. It, yeah, just standing strong and working through anything.
Right, Kiki, we've come full circle. I didn't plan this, we didn't set it up, but this is the reason why we need to take people from other industries and other industries that are fast moving, client facing. So you handle objections, you handle pushback, you handle different opinions. That you're a perfect example of why we need to look elsewhere. And within my own company, within Niche SSP, I prefer people that come from hospitality, that come from retail. They know what it's like on the other end. They know how difficult it is. So that I like that as well. Now let's move on quickly to another thing that I'm eager to kind of ask you for about your experience. It's about networking within pre-construction and the importance of that within a sector. You were studying your degree in Denver, but that was done remotely. You still were able to network. How did you go about that? Because I can imagine people are listening to that going, I wouldn't even know where to start. I wouldn't even like, are you going to just start knocking on doors or picking up the phone or going to networking events? How did you navigate that?
Yeah, it definitely takes a lot of, I would say, self-starting. It's not something that falls into your lap. Said it again. So during my degree, at the beginning of each class, you had to do introduction posts about yourself. So I would reach out to classmates. I'm like, hey, I know we don't live in the same town, but would love to connect, get to know you. Really making connections throughout the program because people are nationwide. So you don't know where they're going to go. And at some point, it might be a coworker or there might be someone that you can reach out for advice, or even if we are in the same industry, you might be able to ask them for some information. But then also LinkedIn has been great. There were some classes during my degree that we had to do a survey. So I started reaching out to people on LinkedIn asking, hey, would you mind participating in this survey that I'm doing for my course? So networking that way, but then also, going to networking events and utilizing the network that you have. My sister-in-law's in construction. So whenever she would come to town, I'd be like, hey, can you introduce me to people? I would love to, I don't know, build my network. And then networking events. The Advancing Pre-Construction Conference has been amazing. Like going up to people, talking to them, picking their brain, and then connecting afterwards. And I think my most favorite connection was last year when I was interviewing. I didn't choose that company, but I was so impressed with the director of engineering. She is incredible. And after the interview process, when I chose a different company, I had reached out to her and said, hey, I know I didn't pursue a career or a job with y'all, but I would love to stay connected. I'm so impressed. And I was wondering if you're interested in a mentorship program, me as a mentee. And she said yes. And we've been doing this for a year now. And yeah, that's been incredible.
Kiki, that's amazing. I mean, there's a couple of things in there that I want to kind of pick on. Again, it comes back to your confidence. It's obviously in your DNA that you're able to ask difficult questions, ask for help, ask people to be within their network. But the mentoring thing is key for me as well, because I've been in advanced pre-construction. I've interviewed a lot of these people. They are so interested in helping the next generation that people don't understand. And the people, and sorry, I talk about the entry level people, the graduates coming into our industry or want to get into our industry. All they have to do is ask the question. And to me, if you start your career by asking difficult questions, everything else becomes easier, because it's all about connecting the dots within pre-construction. So if you're able to connect the dots through your network or through a phone call, rather than going away and studying for 2 weeks to trying to find an answer, then it's just so much easier. How valuable has the mentorship or your mentor been?
Really valuable. I mean, yeah, she's been with a subcontractor her entire construction career. We're about the same age, so I think she's like in her early 30s. She's a director of engineering, which is super impressive. But so being able to go to her as more of an entry level position, but then also some specific challenges that she can potentially relate to, because she's also a woman in construction, has been super helpful for me. Yeah, to just ask her like, hey, what would you do? Or even just in general, any concerns. I was like, hey, I don't know how to approach this. What would you do? And then she's also been great at giving the question back, and she said, what would you do? And then I'll let you know what I would do. So I think about it first.
Brilliant. I love that question. And generally you've got the right answer with a little bit of tweaking. And funny, you mentioned that the networking side of things, because I came across, now this might be a little bit dated because I know that you've taken on a lot more responsibility recently. But early on, you were a big part of the front end activities within Spartan Construction Management. Now, I want to talk about these because I think personality-wise, it's pretty evident that you're good at that. But that's things like estimating, solicitation, bidding, risk mitigation, development before SCM breaks ground. How valuable has that been, doing all of those things in your development and your learning?
Oh yeah, I think that's super important. I think takeoffs, for example, is something you learn so much from them. You learn how to read plans. I love being detailed. I love color coordination. So like diving really into this and analyzing plans, figuring out, oh, it's a discrepancy. This doesn't really make sense. It's something is shown on mechanical or plumbing plans, but they're not shown on mechanical plans. So the front end activities are super important, especially in the beginning, to understand how everything works together. And then also for building out a bid, understanding the plans so you can actually make sure you mitigate risk, you account for everything. There may be things that if you want, so SEM does self-storage, and a lot of our projects have climate controlled units. So you obviously need HVAC plans, and you obviously need to make sure that that makes sense, that you have the accurate loads to support climate control for the entire building. So if you don't have mechanical plans, you might have to put an allowance into your estimate to account for that at a later point in time. So yeah, I think front end has been super helpful in growing and understanding what's going on. And then also now being in a position where we have interns and they can start doing the takeoffs, and then I can review them and make sure that, oh, is there something that's missing? This doesn't seem, the quantity doesn't seem accurate. Maybe the scale is off. Things like that.
Yeah, love it. And how difficult was it? Because I know Spartan, do you predominantly do work in Denver, Colorado, or are you all over the US?
No, so Precon Construction Management works nationwide. The home base or the headquarters is in Golden, but we have projects all over. We definitely focus on Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, Texas, but we also have projects going on in Washington, Colorado. We actually have a few projects in Colorado, but yeah, we're all over.
So how difficult is that getting bids from these states that maybe you haven't worked in before or you haven't done too much work, speaking to the subs, getting their bid numbers, selecting the right subs? How difficult is that?
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge, especially in markets that we haven't been to, because we don't have the relationship. I think while networking is important for your own growth, but also for when you try to get bids, you want to make a partner, create a partnership with your subs. So if it's in the same market, that's awesome. If it's a new market, it's a lot of phone calls and it's a lot of personal phone calls. If it's just your basic, hey, I need a number from you, that's been super challenging. So making time to make the calls personal and then trying to also meet subs on site, doing a site walk in the beginning, getting some face-to-face time, because then it's, I don't know, it just has worked out better getting proper numbers if there's like, it's a real person that you're providing a number to versus just, a phone call.
Yeah, or just an email saying, "There's my plans. Away you go. Give me your best number." And it's difficult. I mean, not only that, if you've got concurrent projects as well, keeping track of that is really difficult. I know we spoke briefly at Advancing Pre-Construction about tech stack, how important it is, and I know Advancing Pre-Construction was a lot about the pre-construction technology tools out there. What have you been impressed with? Because I'm trying to think this from Stryker, from coming from that space into construction. Did it surprise you how tech savvy we were, or not tech savvy?
No, definitely. I was very impressed. Advancing Precon, I was blown away how many different tools there are. I think one of the biggest things was historic database that now a lot of, I mean, it's been something that people have been talking about for a long time, but hearing that there's like a program, Zebel, I've been super impressed with them, what they do. But yeah, in comparison to Stryker, I mean, I used Microsoft. Obviously, depending on the engineering department, they have their own tech stack. But from what I was doing, I wasn't using a lot of tech things in comparison to now. Yeah, we use at STM, we use on-screen takeoff, Procore, Bluebeam. But hearing or meeting with so much people at Advancing Precon, the AI tools that are being incorporated, fascinating, super cool, and I think something to focus on.
Brilliant. So I'm going to ask you a tricky question now, and I'm glad we haven't prepped for this. If you could invent a tool to do something for your job to make it easier, what would it be?
Ooh, that is a challenging one. Ooh.
Because
Honestly, the biggest thing really is historic database because I think it's something that comes with time. So if I say, okay, we want to build something in Georgia, what is good pricing for drywall, for, let's say HVAC again. I don't have that off the top of my head right now. So having a database that I can go to and just reference that so I can quickly put together a concept estimate, or even for certain divisions that we don't buy out and the project execution team would buy out, being able to put a plug number in for an allowance quickly, incredible.
yeah.
So having that, I think, is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the biggest topics at Advancing Pre-Construction was data and the flow of data through the pre-construction and even operations phases. But I think we're closer. There's a lot of people, a lot of pre-construction tech companies out there that are very close to getting it right. So exciting space. Kiki, let's finish now with something that's very close to your heart as well. Is how do we attract and get more women in construction? I mean, I think I mentioned to you, you're a perfect example of us taking from another industry. I think that's what we're going to have to do. I've been piping on in this podcast about the education system's not set up to produce pre-construction managers and estimators. It's all focused towards operations. So when you do go and do a construction management degree, you're coming out of there and all you're thinking about in construction is operations, and that's how it's delivered. When in actual fact, pre-construction is where the biggest decisions are made. So how do we get more women into pre-construction? Please tell me that you've got the answer.
I don't have one answer, but I do think it's like things like this, talking about it and acknowledging like the workforce. There's so many women in the workforce. I think 56% of the U.S. workforce are women, so it's a big pool that's not being utilized. So specifically targeting, reaching out, and for companies to advertise, saying we're looking for women in construction, we're looking for a diverse workforce. Even something on the job postings, there are some adjectives that are being used that are more associated with male than they are with women. So making sure that your postings are inviting for everyone, that everyone feels comfortable, like, yeah, I'm going to apply for this. And then also making sure when you interview people, like read through it and be like, oh yeah, you know what? Today I'm going to try to talk to at least 2 women and give them a chance. And see what happens. And then in the work, when you actually have women, like give them a platform, talk to them, say like, hey, is there anything we can do differently? Do you need anything? How can we support this?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, we talked about this at Advancing Pre-Construction. I introduced you a few women. I mean, I think it's going in the right direction. I think that kind of middle management, there's a lot more women than there has been over the last 5 or 10 years. But I still think on the entry level, there's not enough. Like, it's as if it's taken 10 years to get women into good positions, but we're still forgetting about the flow coming in at the bottom, and getting women in, because we know how I mean, you especially, how productive they can be in pre-construction, how detail oriented, the skills that they have over men are so useful. And the more diversity we have within pre-construction teams, the more successful projects that we can build, the more money the company can make. Everybody wins.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just having a diverse workforce, because everybody has different skill sets, and also different backgrounds. So what you were saying with bringing in people from different industries and then making sure that it's diverse, I think you'll just be more productive. Yeah, and I think there's like a good level of middle management positions with women, but then there's still like a lack of senior positions that women are in. So making sure women are being promoted higher up, and then also making sure enough women are getting the chance to be in middle management.
Absolutely, couldn't agree with you more. And we're seeing loads of that, but we just need more. I think it's up to each individual. Anybody listening to this podcast, it's all about talking to friends, families, aunts, uncles, nephews, nieces, brothers, sisters. And I don't think we're and I don't know whether it's a construction thing. We're not very good at talking about ourselves and about our industry and about how cool it is and how sexy it is, because the people outside it just do not understand how it is exciting and how important it is to build bigger, better, safer buildings and communities for everyone. They just take it for granted, like I did before I got into construction. I was like, I wasn't really that interested how a road was the gradient of a road, or the hospitals, or the schools that I went to. I think bringing a bit of perspective on it to the younger generation will help.
You make such a great point. Now that I'm in the construction industry, when people joke about like, oh, the road construction is going so slow, I'm like, you have no idea how hard it is to get permits. They are trying their hardest. How dare?
Yeah, that's it. We take a lot for granted, but I think this is a big thing, and I think there's a lot of good women out there, and I know you're involved in some memberships and committees. There's a lot of good work going on, so long may it continue. So Kiki, tell us now quickly, obviously Spartan Construction Management, how's business? Obviously the storage industry is one element that you guys do in it. How's the other business? How's backlog looking? What are we expecting for the rest of 2024 and into 2025?
Yeah, we're staying super busy. I mean, right now, self-storage is our bread and butter. We have been looking into different asset classes, but nothing has been decided yet. So self-storage, full all the way. Really busy. We have multiple projects breaking ground within August and September. So for the Precon team, we've been cranking up it, but also working on our turnover because we're breaking ground on so many things. It's looking really good. We have a really good backlog also for 2025 already. Obviously, it's always looking for more opportunities, but it's been really exciting going from single storage to also multi-storage. We have a few multi-storage projects that are breaking ground, which adds a whole new level of complexity. And it's been really exciting for the company. I mean, we're only 3 years old, so we've made big strides, a lot of growth. It's been very exciting.
Brilliant. 3 years. Very, very exciting. Well, listen, we want to wish you all the best. Now, before I let you go, I like to ask one question and one line. You're only allowed to give one piece of advice to someone thinking about coming into construction. What would that be?
You can do anything you want and you can do it in pink.
Yes, I like that. You got to trademark that one, Kiki. I like it. I will put that in your slogan on your all the graphics. Very nice. I like it. Well, listen, Kiki, listen, there's obviously people going to be listening to this. Maybe there's developers that are interested in doing self-storage all over the US, or there's maybe junior people coming into the industry. Anybody that might have a follow-up question from this, where's the best place to get you?
LinkedIn. Yeah. Message me, reach out. That's perfect.
Lovely. What I will do, folks, in the show notes below, I will put a link to Kiki McCartney's LinkedIn profile. Feel free to connect with her, hit her up, ask her questions. She might even mentor you if you speak nicely to her, because we got to keep giving back, Kiki.
I would love to. Yeah, please.
Good. Well, listen, thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And we look forward to following your career, but also Spartan Construction Management.